What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first time, well, let's be a long time preview for the Eagles and the Rams. Today, I'm not going to be joined alone, but I'm going to be joined by a fellow content creator who I'm really respect of. But before I get into it, if you guys make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure to ring that notification bell, and welcome my boy Jonathan Mass, the sports judge of the show. What's good, man?
Hey, what's good, my friend? It's a pleasure to be on this show with you. I know we've collaborated in the past. We've done some shows together, but I don't think we've never done a tandem show like this. It's really cool. I know you're a Philly dude. I'm an LA guy. I know you're excited about the Phillies as much as I'm excited about the Dodgers, and I know what we're here for today. We're here to talk about the Rams and the Eagles. How are you, my friend? How are you feeling?
I'm great. Philly sports has never been better. Like I said, with the Eagles doing their thing. Now, yes, probably not the most greatest. We're probably the most ugliest 4-0 team I can imagine. But obviously, with the Rams, or we're coming into your territory, that might I add. I've noticed the Rams are not like a full 100% because your left tackle spot's kind of questionable from what I've seen in terms of the roster. It's like you have like two left tackles or let's be real, banged up.
Hey, you know what? What matters in football, and I always say this, it's not the quarterback, even though the quarterback takes 90% of the blame when something goes wrong. You always hear me say that. But the offensive line is huge. That's what matters. Those guys up front, can they protect the quarterback? And yes, we have had some left tackle issues. The Eagles' defensive front can wear them down. That's a big concern going into this game, is that they can wear a team like the Rams down. And if Matthew Stafford is under duress and he feels pressure coming at him and he's getting chased down, I mean, that could be a long afternoon for Matthew Stafford. And what happens when he usually gets chased down, harassed by a defensive rush? What usually happens? He usually throws interceptions, or he usually makes mistakes at critical points of the game. So, I mean, that's something to take into consideration this weekend going against this Eagles team. Now, I know the Eagles defense is not the same as it was a year ago. A lot has changed. They lost their defensive coordinator who, took a job in Arizona to become the head coach, Jonathan Gannon. So things have changed, but that defense can still wreak havoc, especially for a team like the Rams.
Yeah, and obviously we're seeing one of the matchups probably is like it's Steve Avila or Jalen Carter taking on Steve Avila because obviously we have a couple guys that already been ruled out officially. That is obviously with Fletcher Cox. Look, he's not the same as he once was. I'm not really too concerned about that. And obviously Cam Jurgens did with a foot issue. And and the defense hasn't really been one. It's not really didn't really take a hit per se, like a huge hit. But I will say, look, having Sean Desai over Gannon, it does. There's some improvement, but there's just obviously with the shorts, especially in our nickel spot where it's we've been very weak in that spot. Obviously, Vontae Maddox can't really catch a break. Josh Jobe is not a fan of him. And then we just brought in Bradley Roby. I don't know if he's going to be playing or not. Probably not. But unfortunately, we have to put Bradbury back inside on the inside. It's been nothing but ugly the last couple of weeks with this defense. But look, the only other convincing win we had was against Tampa Bay, who's been one of my surprise teams this year. But that's really not really saying much. And that's the thing too. And it's the same thing with the offensive. Like I said, the O-line are one of the weak spots. It's right guard, but I don't really think it's going to be that much of a difference because we do have Sua Peta, who's I guess you could say a serviceable right guard for Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I want, and not to change the subject or go off topic too much, but I want to go back to, you mentioned Jalen Carter, and I want to go back to him because yes, he is a big part of that defensive front for the Eagles, and I think Jalen Carter, and I'm confident he'll give the Rams offensive line some problems. There's no question about it. I think he's going to be huge in this game. The Eagles again, on offense, I know they don't look as effortlessly explosive as last year, but the defense is still holding it down from what I've seen, and they're 4-0 for a reason. I mean, you look at them; they're 4-0 for a reason. On defense, the Eagles were always going to, do their thing. It might be a little regression there, but not too much. After being historically dominant last year, a lot has changed, but Philly is still strong up front, especially after adding Jalen Carter. I mean, you look at what he can do. He's gonna be a handful for the Rams, no question about it. I expect him to be a very impactful player on Sunday against the Rams.
And yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, and he is like the fourth highest rank, in terms of pressures, in this league. I mean, as a rookie, I mean, we've seen some rookies where they just seem to have fine success. I mean, Jalen Carter looks like, he really kind of picked up where he left off from Georgia. I mean, yes, we do have Jordan Davis, probably the second rotation. And now we're going to see AJ Brown and Witherspoon. From what I've seen with Witherspoon, he's kind of like the most targeted, but he doesn't really do well in probably coverage, from my understanding, because I've seen Witherspoon kind of give up some big plays when the Rams, and like I said, I even though I know, yes, the Rams, last year was kind of really disappointing, but I would not say the Rams are overachieving, but they're still question marks. I've seen. It's like I don't know what it is. I mean, look, the O-line, it depends on if Cooper Kupp, if he's not going to have that rust, because, well, we know what Cooper Kupp can do. It's just, how's he going to fare coming off an injury? I like what you had with Puka and Tutu Atwell. Yeah, and it's going to be interesting now that you're going to have can't think of running back one at the moment, but I'm drawing a blank right now. But
Kyron Williams.
Yeah, so yeah. Kyron Williams, I've liked what I've seen, but like I said, the Rams as overall as a picture, well, besides Aaron Donald is still a complete freaking monster. I'm not saying I'm like entirely impressed, but I've in a sense, a bounce back after a crappy 5-12 season last year, because I even told some of these Rams fans too, like, you kind of followed our pattern, put all your eggs in one basket, pretty much sell out for a championship, and unfortunately you had to bite the bullet the following year, and that's kind of what we did after 2017. So yeah, I mean, our defense did take a bit of a regression. I will admit that, but I really don't see it's like I said, not a full on regression. No, yeah, I mean, we have Bradbury, unfortunately, not really an inside guy, because like I said, we're very thin at the nickel spot, so it's it puts us in a bit of a different predicament, shall we say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the team is never going to be the same after winning a Super Bowl, after falling short of winning a Super Bowl, because you have free agents, you have players that are tradable. Sometimes you move on from players. The market is different for a player. So it's hard to keep a team together, and then there's opportunities for defensive coordinators. It's crazy because the Eagles lost both of their defensive coordinators. I mean, both of their coordinators in the same year, who both landed coaching jobs. You look at the Eagles and you see that Jalen Hurts and his new offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, are still trying to get on the same page. It takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. So even though the Eagles are 4-0, I would say they've done a fairly decent job, considering that these players had to get on the same page with new coordinators and had to learn a new playbook, adapt to a new system. So much had changed in so little time. So it was a different look for the Eagles. Now, you said that the Rams are a team that is not much of a surprise to you, and you said you feel like there's something
there's something missing. Yeah, it's like, it's not not in a bad way, but it's just like, I like how they bounce back, but just like there's certain question marks. I
Yeah,
want to
there's
see what this team can do.
and one of those question marks is that the defense is young, the defense is inexperienced, the defense is learning on the fly. Uh, you still have Aaron Donald up front. He's the veteran on that defense. Um, so I mean, you got a younger group of guys, you got a bunch of inexperienced guys, and the offense is a question mark, mainly because of the offensive line. And then sometimes you don't know where you're going to get from Sean McVay's offense. I think the offense is more well balanced and more effective when he establishes the run early, and that's been an encouraging sign, right? Kyron Williams has been showing what the future can look like or what the future may hold for the Rams. And I think when the Rams have an effective running game, a strong running game, uh, uh, things work to their advantage. You see a more efficient Rams offense because what that does now that allows Sean McVay to get a little cute if he wants to open his playbook and look for a new trick or two. I see what he wants to do with the offense because that's Sean McVay for you, right? He's going to find a way to be innovative. He's going to find a way to be creative. But in order to be more creative, you have to have a strong running game. And we often talk about how running backs in today's NFL are not valued well.
As they once were, like, say, 10, 15
Honestly,
years ago.
Right. But it's still a valued position because without the running game, much doesn't happen on your offense. And the Rams can tell you that because we saw them get away from the run game quite often last season. We saw them abandon the run game. And what happened? They were too one-dimensional. They were too predictable. And everything was happening through the air. Now that Sean McVay is mixing it up, they have a strong running game. It seems now the ground game has been more efficient. I feel like that alleviates some of the pressure off of a guy like Matthew Stafford, who's not throwing 40 or 50 times a game. When he's throwing 40 or 50 times a game, then he's bound to make some type of mistake, right? So I think it's good that we're seeing more run plays being implemented. We're seeing more of Kyron Williams being incorporated in the offense, which is really, really good for the Rams because I felt like when they had Todd Gurley, they were strong in that area, running the football, and that's why the first year or the second year, Jared Goff had so much success because he had a strong running game behind him, and it worked. It worked tremendously well for a Rams team. So I feel like they're getting back to the basics. They're getting back to the foundation, and the foundation of that offense is running the football and being able to execute plays on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's the same with us. With obviously, yeah, losing Miles Sanders is like he was. I know he's going to command a ton of money. Like I said, I was one of the people say, I think he just let him walk, and obviously we got Swift for cheap, brought the hometown kid home. Kenny Gainwell, obviously after week 1 shouldn't have got the many touches as she did. But that's besides the point. But Swift has been nothing but short of an amazement coming in. Into this, coming away from Detroit, obviously, a lot of Lions fans were saying, he has a bit of injury problems, yes, but really behind this offensive line, like we don't really have to worry about that because we use our rotations pretty much better than anybody in terms of whether it's the running backs. I mean, we had wide receivers. I mean, we have some guys that you probably never really expect to really kind of be impactful. Me like Alameda Zaccheaus, coming home as well. Another Philly kid from Atlanta, or we got from Atlanta. It's and that's the thing too. And I think that's where I think I would say part of that your defense's inexperience a little bit. It's going to come, and it's going to be a little bit. You're going to have to. I would say the Rams defense. Well, as young as they are, which I've liked what I've seen. But like I said, they're kind of learning on the fly. You're going to have a hard time really kind of stopping guys like Gainwell and Swift. If that's the case, you're going to have to deal with those two. And knowing you're in your secondary, you have to deal with our two best receivers that we have really we haven't really had in well over almost a decade at this point.
Another thing too, this is going to be a real test, a huge test for the Eagles secondary, especially with Kupp possibly playing. Maybe Kupp plays in this game. So this is going to be a huge test for that secondary. Then you have Puka Nacua doing his thing, who has, been amazing. He into another weapon for this Rams offense. So yeah, the Eagles secondary is going to be tested. I think this is going to be a great game. I think the Rams will put up a fight. I'm a little worried about the Rams run defense, I want to say, especially when you have a guy like DeAndre Swift out there doing his thing. So that's going to be interesting to see as well. But the Rams, look, they absolutely have a terrifying group of receivers. Kupp is back in action. Like I said, now you have to figure out who you're gonna cover. If you're gonna double Cooper Kupp, maybe do you cover him with two defenders? Because now Kupp is gonna draw more attention being back on offense. He's gonna draw a lot of attention, but so is Puka gonna draw a lot of attention. So which one do you cover more, right? It's the big question, right? But this game, this is gonna tell us a lot about the Eagles, right? Because the Eagles are coming into it. They're coming into this game unbeaten. The Rams have lost a few games, but Stafford, man, he has been in a groove. What a heroic performance from him last Sunday. They got a legit running game again with Kyron. I like what I'm seeing from him. The O-line is finally gelling nicely. And the defense has a pass rush that has looked fairly decent. So, this is going to be a good game. It's going to be close. It might come down to the wire. Again, you got Kupp back. You got Puka. You got Higbee. The Rams got a chance to walk away with this one, but it won't be easy. It's going to be a hard-fought game because the Eagles are one of the top teams in the NFC. I have them second in the NFC behind the 49ers, but I got the Eagles up there. So I think this game has the makings of being a good fight.
It really is, and like you said, it's going to be about a test of obviously you're going against your defense is going against probably one of the best offensive lines in football. Obviously with Jason Kelsey, Jordan Mailata, and guys like that, and obviously we probably going to have to double Aaron Donald from pretty much from the game plan. And like I said, it is, and like I say, I think from what I've been seeing or probably been reading, Kupp could be, I would be almost like a 99 expectancy to see him play, but I would be shocked if he just give him another day of rest. But like I said, I've liked what I've seen from the Rams. I still think they're going to be on paper with the way I look at this roster. I think they're still going to be somewhat competitive in the NFC West. It's just, it depends. Like, can most of your guys stay healthy? Because that was the one thing, the biggest with the problems, the Rams. Can Matt Stafford stay healthy? Because boy, that your quarterback problem last year was terrible. Guys go through it's kind of a shame, Stetson Bennett with all the crap he's been going through. Unfortunately, y'all had to, cut and figuratively cut your losses with him. It's like I've liked what McVay has done. And like I said, and the big test is our secondary because, like I said, we're thin in some spots, which is always somehow, as crazy as it sounds, like it's always been somehow our Achilles heel in terms of our defense. It's always in that secondary, and it also a little bit of the linebackers. We've been getting better with that with Nicholas Morrow filling in as well and obviously our safeties, which now we have Justin Evans, who I'm still not a fan of, over Sidney Brown, who I still consider as this new version of Brian Dawkins, the way how hard he hits, like a ton of hits like a bus. It really, yeah, it really does going to come down to, pretty much the wire. Even though last week should not have been as close as it is, but then again, that's what you would expect in division games. So we're pretty much in that sense.
Yeah, and back to Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is tough as nails. I mean, this guy can be bruised, battered, beat up, and he's still giving it 110%. I mean, we see that often from Matthew Stafford. That's why I say the man is tough as nails. It takes a lot to get him off the football field. He has to be severely injured to not play. And I mean, that's what I've always liked about Matthew Stafford is his mental toughness and his physical toughness as well. That's how I defined him as being this fierce competitor, who will play through an injury if he can. And I mean, we saw that last week. There was a level of concern about his health because he was limping out there. He was struggling to walk. But at the same time, he was still out there making plays. And he looked sensational down the stretch and helped the Rams pull off what was a remarkable comeback in the end. Your Eagles, though, they are 4-0. They are 4.5-point favorites in this game, as they probably should be, because again, the Rams was an early season surprise, have been a surprise. The Rams have been one of the pleasant surprises this season. But this should be an interesting game. I think both offenses will light it up. It's going to be really close. I think it's going to be really, really good game.
It's going to come down like whose defense can outlast
right.
whose defense can outlast
right.
each other.
It's going to come down to the fastest and the strongest, right?
To piggyback off your point with Matthew Stafford, the one thing that really concerned me is like, how is he going to really fare since coming off that, probably that severe neck injury he had last year? Is like, because my thing is just like, oh, are they really? Is because what worries me, because either one was going to probably send him to an early retirement. Even though I mean, he's done so much. Yeah, I mean, yes, granted, had to take a trade to really help him really establish like he's no slouch. And yeah, unfortunately, in Detroit was no longer helping him. But it's like it's kind of the battle of the defense. The way I look at this coming into this week, because when I look at the rest so far up to this tour, I'm not really taking no game lightly, because like I said, we got new coordinators try to gel with either it's offense or defense.
Right.
Can the running game be consistent? Getting some guys, keeping guys healthy, which was always been a bit, not saying one of our big issues, but always been to be thorn in our side for not say the longest time, but a little bit. With Cam Jurgens, who is supposed to be right now, currently as it stands, or when that time comes when Kelsey is all said and done, will take over as Kelsey's successor at the center spot. Yeah, but we do have some question marks, but I do think it's, the battle of the defenses, and, like I said, and then who can outlast who? Because I mean, right now, by the looks of it, and from the way how Deshaun Desai wants to play this, he's going to have to double team up front with Kelsey against Aaron Donald, because, well, Aaron Donald is still, for me, it's still a top 3 the top 10 top 3 edge rusher in this league at 34, 35 years old, 7-time defensive player of the year. I that's the way I look at it.
Can the Rams, though, as sharp as they have looked, as impressive as they have been, can they do what Washington did to the Eagles? Can they put a scare on them if they play really good ball?
It's a possibility, but I mean, if you really look how Washington played against a lonely team like Chicago, which, like I said, I don't really take, like, I'm one of those fans that doesn't really take I walked into this game say, like, what are we going to be looking like? Because like I said, I don't really take each game for granted. Because like I said, yes, we're 4-0, but we're not like the prettiest 4-0 team, not compared to what the 49ers does or what they have. It's just the fact that, like I said, we're going to switching coordinators, and yes, Gannon had some failures with this, but it's just like we're with the side, it's a little bit different because actually we're finally bringing the pressure and
Right.
bring a blitz every so often. Which obviously last year we were one of the worst teams of blitzing. I think we're like outside the top 25 in terms of blitzing, which we have done. Um, and yeah, can the really defense can stay on the not on the field as long, but Cameron trying to get the job done. So, and also, like I said, it depends on if the Rams somehow may not come out slow. Like we have seen teams where there's been some slow starts where they just couldn't get it going. I mean, take case in point us against New England, even though I will kind of flat out admit I kind of took the Patriots a little bit over for granted because I thought they were going to be very god awful. But yeah, I mean, yeah, most of our wins besides Tampa Bay were scary, to say the least.
Now, I do think this, though. I do think the Rams will control the clock, and their defense plays two safeties to limit big plays. I think we will see a lot of that from the Rams. I think Stafford will get the ball out quickly to avoid pressure. So I do think the Rams will be tough for the Eagles. I do see the Rams making it a little challenging for the Eagles. I really, really think this is going to be a great game.
I think it really is. And like I said, I'm one of those kind of people that doesn't like blowouts in football. Like, it's just one of my things. It's like, I'd rather have a hard fought defensive game, which I think is what's going to happen for another straight week. And, the way look, I think the Bucks was kind of not much of a challenge to our offense. But I do think it is. Yeah. I mean, look, we have two teams who can control the clock better than anybody in this league. And I still think the Rams can, I think that's always been the biggest Rams strength, even during their Super Bowl run. They always had an opportunity, probably the best team to really bring out the control the time possession. And yeah, at times, it's because I mean, we're gonna look at our second half of our schedule is not going to be easy. Like I said, I think Sunday Night Football. I actually really do have the Eagles dropping that home game to Miami. I think Miami is a legit team. I am not really going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. I mean, the Dolphins have looked good. You talk about some glaring weaknesses in the defense as the Eagles defense has regressed from last season. And if there's one team that can catch them off guard, and if there's one team that can pull off an upset against them, not saying the Rams can't, but it's definitely the Dolphins. That make a lot of sense because the Dolphins put up 70 points against one of the worst defenses in the league, the Denver Broncos. On top of that, you got Tyreek Hill, and he's unguardable. I don't know who in the National Football League can cover that
guy. I don't say probably nobody. Quite honest.
He's just lightning speed. I mean, the dude's incredibly fast. He's a gifted athlete. And I think the Dolphins have one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. So, yeah, you could be right there. The Eagles can very well.
Unless, and then we also – and we have seen where the Dolphins somehow struggle against a team like the Buffalo Bills for whatever reason because – like I said, I'm not going to overlook the Rams because I do think the Rams are going to be a solid team. Because, like I said, that's kind of like the worst idea you want to have. It's not overlook a team. Well, unless
you don't want to look too far ahead. You don't want to look too far ahead. You got the Rams this weekend. You gotta focus on the Rams because I'm gonna tell you something. That cup, the cool and dynamic duel, can be.
It can be lethal.
It could be lethal.
It's just like, and like I said before, it's like how it depends on what Cooper Kupp's going to be looking like coming off. Was it a knee injury or something? Was it an Achilles that kept him?
And this too, my friend. This could come down to who makes the bigger play on defense between Aaron Donald and Jalen Carter. It could come down to that too because both of those two guys are impactful players, and they could quickly change the dynamic of a game. and now you got Cup back in this game. This becomes a competitive game. This is going to be a really really good game. This might be the Eagles' toughest matchup.
You know what? I won't disagree with that.
I'm not just saying that because I'm here in LA. I'm here in
no, because I can imagine. I'm really having this play out in my head, like the way how it's all said and done. Because, like I said, Cooper Kupp, it depends on what he's going to be looking like. Because practice really doesn't really tell us much of what he's going to do. And I like I said, I like Tutu Atwell and I like Puka Nacua, which let's be real, Puka has been one of my surprise receivers. I still think he's probably
a surprise receiver. Yeah.
For a guy that was a 5th round pick out of BYU, not really known for, producing the greatest talent. But I mean, right now, like I said, it depends. It's right now he's thriving in that Sean McVay scheme. And like I said, I really do like what the Rams have to offer. It's just, like I said, you gotta get that that left tackle situation fixed. Because right now that's the glaring for me. That's the only glaring weakness I've seen with the Rams. It's also going to be a big test for Steve Avila from TCU. Going against a guy like Jalen Carter, because we've seen defenses, no matter if they try to double or triple team, Jalen Carter is still going to find a way to get through. And
Jalen Carter's going to have himself a day. I can see that. Like I said, it could come down to the battle of the defenses, and you said that earlier. But if Matthew Stafford feels comfortable in the pocket and he's able to air it out, that could be trouble for the Eagles secondary, because the Eagles secondary is suspect, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you ain't wrong. I've always criticized the secondary, not because it's, because, look, we're thin in some spots. I mean, right now our glaring weakness in the secondary is the nickel spot. Because obviously, like I said, Avonte Maddox cannot catch a break with injuries. Josh Jobe just seems that experiment has to be done. We did bring in Bradley Roby, a guy that can actually play the nickel.
See, the thing with Jobe, though, Jobe isn't a slot corner.
It's like we have some guys who are just not playing in position. And in the last couple of weeks prior to coming into this one, it's just, it looks ugly. Because, at times,
because last week, didn't they last week shift Bradbury to the slot?
Unfortunately, because right now, like I said, if Max wasn't hurt, Avonte Max would have been our slot, our guy in the slot.
So what's the plan this week is the question.
It's, like I said, and I will say this, and like I said, it's probably going to be doing it again, because we don't know, because if, Roby's going to be a healthy scratch, or because we just signed him. And he's a little bit on the older side, but because for right now, we desperately need a nickel corner as badly as we need to, and get right back to with Bradbury. Because when Maddox, we were always doing press coverage a lot and not really, and the only differences was with Desai from Gannett to Desai. So we don't have our corners 10 yards off the defender. We have literally at least maybe, Slay could be at least about 4 to 5 yards in case that we're going to go that way. And we're going to have guys and it was Sidney Brown too, Terrell Evans hasn't really been, hasn't been terrible. I want to see more out of him. Same with, and Sidney Brown, got to be careful with the hammy. Justin Evans, I'm not a huge fan of Justin Evans, over Sidney Brown. But like I said, it's going to come down to defense and time of possession, the way I look at when I'm playing out in my head. Because right now, I think the score could be 37-24. And no, hang on, 34-27. It's going to come down to a 1-score game. I almost had that wrong. I think it's going to be at least a 1 score, at least.
Yeah, I can see that. I can very well see that. It wouldn't surprise me at all. If it's 1 score, it's going to be close. I really think it's going to be close.
Especially coming to this week, you guys got the six. Your offensive rank sits in the least, a 9th ranked defense, which is a nice improvement, which I've seen.
Right.
Third passing game is 3rd, your glaring rank is the rushing. You're 18th in the league in rushing. Which
Here's the keys to victory. Don't try to get cute. That's one of the keys to victory. Establish the run game early. Wear them down on the ground. Run the ball as much as you can. Execute play action because the Rams they like to run play action. That's one of their greatest strengths. When they do run the football, that allows them to get more creative and run more play action plays. And don't turn over the football. If they do all those things, they will probably be in a good position. And this again is a true test for the Eagles.
I think it's a test could be not just for us, but also for y'all. Like, can your defense because right now, like I said, I'm not really saying you guys haven't played any real competition because it's hard to get a win in football, no matter how bad the team is. I mean, and I've always said, probably the most dangerous teams are the winless teams. I mean, look at Chicago. I think because, boy, that's all Command. What's funny, I know we're gonna going off top. I told Commanders fans, don't overlook the Bears because they're gonna find a way to smack you in the mouth. And I got laughed at, and boy, you saw that on Thursday night, a 20-point beatdown from the Chicago Bears. But and like I said, and that's the one thing. Yeah, Key. And that's the thing too. Like, it also depends. Can Aaron Donald stay healthy, because he's kind of starting to get a bit of an injury history. I'm not saying like he's like fully injury prone, because that'll be ridiculous to say. But it also depends. Like, can he really stay on the field? Same with Matthew Stafford.
I think Aaron Donald's adamant about retirement. He had considered the possibility of stepping away from the game. He talked about retirement, so I think he's considering it. I think he's going to give it more thought after this season, and there's a possibility that we might not see him back with the Rams next season, because he had talked about retirement. So has Sean McVay. So it'd be interesting to see.
Sean McVay's too young. Yeah, he's too young.
Sean and they extended him too. So no,
exactly.
He's not so no, but Aaron Donald, it's a different story for him. He has thought about retirement, and it wouldn't surprise me if they don't win this season, or if they don't go deep into the playoffs, that we might not see Aaron Donald back next season. Yes, he has been a little banged up too. So
yeah, and that's the thing too. What I like was like, and what makes me wonder is like, who's going to be his replacement, because we all know at times when you replace a franchise guy, it's a lot of 9 times out of 10, it's kind of hard to find that right person to fill, because those are big shoes to fill.
It's tough shoes to fill, but again, you got to remember too, Robert, you can't replace a guy like Aaron Donald.
No, you really can't, because he's that kind of player like that any team would want.
Right,
and it's like it's the same thing. And I have said when I watched the Rams like back in the day, days with Kurt Warner, after when he retired, like they went through I would say some scrubs for quarterbacks over the years. But yeah, it's like you're not going to really get those guys. I mean, take it from us, like guys like Brian Westbrook, Brian Dawkins. We couldn't find guys like those. Can't find guys like that anymore nowadays. I mean, for me, another guy that's I think people really kind of slept on was Sheldon Brown back in 2007, who unfortunately messed up Reggie Bush in that playoff game against when he was with the Saints during his prime years. It's just one of those things. It's like, and yeah, in terms of defense coordinator, yeah, nobody's going to top out Jim Johnson. Like, and I've been an Eagles fan for well over a long time. Jim Johnson has been one of the best defense coordinators we had in this franchise history, and yeah, it's going to be interesting what the Rams are going to be looking like. And I do think the Rams are a potential playoff team. I think they're going to be the team that could, not say they're going to be not going to have like double-digit wins, but I do think it's going to be like a 9-8 season. Somehow they're going to sneak in and probably knock off or own like a tiebreaker over somebody. But like I said, I think overall it's going to come down to the defense and time possession.
Yeah, and usually the Rams win the time of possession battle. Usually, a lot of the times they do. Let's see if that happens this weekend. If that does happen, then they have a huge advantage to come away and win this game. and it's great that they're coming off of a week um, in which they beat the Indianapolis Colts after nearly collapsing after blowing a 23-point lead against the Indianapolis Colts in that game. But again, it was Matthew Stafford who was the hero in that game because he was able to orchestrate a game-winning touchdown drive in overtime, highlighted by who else? The rookie sensation, Puka Nakua. It's just a wonderful season that this guy's having. And again, the upstart Rams have a chance to get over 500. No one in their wildest imagination had the Rams having a season like this thus far. No one thought they would.
Not me. Like I said,
Now,
I'm not a huge
Eagles
hater of the
are
Rams.
Right.
I want to see, because prior to them winning the Super Bowl a couple of years back, I think this team, I mean, look, I know what this team can do and how much success they're going to have, but it just so it takes up the right pieces. I mean, we've seen, without Cooper Kupp, and yeah, I mean, a little bit of a big blow. I mean, coming into this year as well, obviously still rehabbing from the injury, but Puka Nakua has done a really solid job. Even though I'm kind of pissed that I should take my fantasy, but that's besides the point. And I've already liked what Tutu Atwell and Tyler Higbee, and you got some nice young pieces. I think this is going to be a nice young team to watch. But I do think, quite honestly, I think they're going to be up there in terms of competitive with the 49ers and the Seahawks, because when you really look at that NFC West, besides those two, besides the Seahawks and the Niners, I do think the Rams, for me, it needs to be that third team, because listen, bro, we all can agree we can't trust the Arizona Cardinals with a lick of confidence, because that's a mess down there in the valley. But overall, I think last and final thing, I want to say my final score is probably 34-27. Eagles pull this out. It's like I said, it's going to come down to it's going to be a one score victory or loss between these two teams.
Yeah, it's going to come down to maybe a game-winning touchdown or a field goal. I think it's going to be that tight. I'll give the Eagles a 38-34 win.
Respect that. It's
and the Eagles, man, this will be their first true win, I guess you can say, because they don't really have any convincing wins this season yet.
Right now the only convincing win one can make the argument is against Tampa Bay, and let's bro, Tampa Bay isn't really the greatest. And like I said, we really haven't played some good teams. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could say this is our one true win, and I can agree with that.
But again, Kupp and Nakua will be tough covers for this Eagles defense, so it's going to be good. And another thing I'm interested to see is Aaron Donald versus Philly's O-line. That's another matchup to watch as well.
Yeah, and that's there's been a lot of matches. I think both us and the Rams fans are going to be looking forward to. I mean, Steve Atwell, rookie on rookie against rookie Jalen Carter, I think, which most likely he's going to get a lot more snaps. Aaron Donald, probably, like I said, probably right now going at probably more, like I said, probably the best O-line he's going to face this year. But then I could probably be wrong. There's probably other teams that have a better O-line. Well, not saying better O-line than the Birds, but at least in terms of like a top 5 offensive line of football. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see what this Rams team can do, and same with the Birds. And like I said, big test, the secondary. Both actually is for both sides, because I've seen Witherspoon. Boy, he gets kind of like torched a little bit at times. But I do think, I think it's going to be interesting to see. But John, man, it's been good actually working with you again after, boy, it's been a long time.
Man, it's been fun to be on this show. I had a blast.
Before we get out of here, but where can the people find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. Please send out the link for everyone, Robert, if you can, so they can link up with me over at YouTube. I'm there. You guys can find me. All you guys got to do is just type in the word, the Sports Judge, type in the Sports Judge, and you will see a cartoon image of me. That is my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. We can, link up. We can follow each other. We can uh, you know, check in with each other, and you guys can follow my content over there. And you guys can also find me on TikTok. I'm over at TikTok, the Sports Judge 85, the Sports Judge 85. So be sure to follow me on TikTok as well. And then I'm on Instagram as well. They're all just about the same. You find me there too, Sports Judge 85. And then you can find me on Twitter, Sports Judge 85. I'm all over social media. I'm all over these platforms. You guys can also find me where I'm most active on my Facebook fan page. The face.
But yeah, outside of that, make sure to get this man, make sure to get this guy up to 1,000 subs. Going to bring him to the 1K sub club. But yeah, shout out to John because, like I said, it's been hard to find Rams content creators nowadays. So he's the closest one I know personally. So it's been fun, working with him. But like I said, go check him out on all, YouTube, Facebook, pretty much all the social media platforms. Whether it's, just anything sports related, because that's kind of what John does. You guys don't want to really miss out some of the good stuff he can bring to the table. And that being said, guys, John, man, it's a pleasure having you, and hope that the rest of the day goes well.